Hello and welcome to another episode of the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. This is Reverend Frances Faden, and I'm so grateful that we get to spend some time together talking with a very special guest, somebody who can absolutely help you magnify your miracles, Mirabai Devi. But before we get into this amazing interview, let's take a few deep breaths together just to get ourselves grounded and centered. And if you're driving, please keep your eyes open, but you can still keep your awareness on your breath as you're letting yourself just become more present. Breathing in the energy of expansion, breathing out anything you no longer need, and allowing your body, mind, and spirit to just create space, to have an opening within yourself to receive today's inspiration, the light, whatever it is that you're going to be receiving today. And knowing that whatever it is that you are meant to receive today will be exactly what happens for you. Let's take one more deep breath in gratitude, and we can begin. All right, well, hello again, my miraculous friend, and welcome to this very special podcast episode with my very special guest, Mirabai Devi. I want to introduce you to her, and then we'll jump right into finding out more about her story, which is an amazing story, and I can't wait to share all of it with you. So Mirabai Devi is an international spiritual teacher, divine mother, heart-centered inspirational speaker and presenter, and she's a channel and conduit for the divine light. She's a global healer, an author, and founder of the Mirabai Devi Foundation, which is her nonprofit 501c3. Her foundation is dedicated to her mission of raising world consciousness through the awakening and healing of humanity. Mirabai has been devoted to the awakening and service of humanity for nearly 30 years. Her global programs and group healings have transformed the lives of millions of people as she traveled throughout the world. She's born in South Africa, and she's currently living in Hawaii. And we're so lucky to be able to have her because normally she's traveling all over the world. So please help me welcome Mirabai Devi. Hi, Mirabai.
Hi, Frances. Thank you so much for having me here on your podcast today.
Oh, I'm just so thrilled to have you here. So I just want to
Thank
let
you.
people know that I have experienced Mirabai's work personally. She does these amazing divine light transmissions that are done virtually. So they're like a teleclass format where people can get on the line and experience this amazing infusion of light. And I've worked with her one-on-one as well. And so we're going to be talking about how she came to be doing all of that. But I always like to start by asking my guests, just in your own experience, what your definition of a miracle is. We're going to be talking about magnifying miracles today. What is it for you? Because I know you've experienced a lot of them.
I certainly have too many to remember or count at this point. But anyway, my definition of a miracle is a seemingly paranormal event that surpasses what would be considered normal to the logical or rational mind.
Right.
So when a difficult circumstance or a difficult problem gets resolved with divine or angelic intervention.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I know you're going to be sharing about that with us today. So, you have this incredible story, and a lot of the people listening might not be familiar with your story. Would you be willing to tell us how you developed this ability to channel the divine light? And like, I know I've read your story and I've heard you tell your story. If you could share a little bit about what that was like, kind of where you started from and where you are now, because I think your story is miraculous.
Oh, thank you. So I was trained by non-physical spiritual masters from a very young age, from when I was around 3 years old. I had a council of 7 or a council of sometimes 12 masters that would appear to me when I was a child. And it went from there, and really from 7 until I had my awakening when I was 21, these different masters would come and train me on how to work with bringing light into people and dissolving darkness or negativity in humans. And in order to do so, they did what is called a rewiring or regridding process. And that rewiring or regridding process is when they change up your electrical system, just like no different when you're working on any kind of car or motor or computer programming or software, and you do an upgrade. It's the same thing with the human electrical system. When you upgrade it, then literally you upgrade it so that it can contain higher frequencies, higher voltages of energy or light that can then be able to sustain the divine light or the energy that's being downloaded from my guides into my body, so that I can be what is called a trans-dimensional portal to humans, to bring the spiritual worlds and the light from the spiritual frequencies of the upper worlds or the worlds of light into humanity.
Wow.
And so a very large group of light beings work through me and introduce themselves to me at a very young age. And they do all kinds of different things through me, which we can talk about later on. But the main thing to know is that no, I was not a normal child. And no, I did not have a normal childhood.
Yeah.
I definitely was doing things like astral traveling to other planets and worlds, communicating with fairies and light beings, helping trapped souls and ghosts cross over, working with clearing negative energies from the spiritual form that they appear in around humans. And also, I was learning telepathic communication with plants and animals. So this went all the way through from when I was 7 years old, really, until my whole life. Honestly, I can't say my training ever really stopped. It still goes ongoingly.
So it's a really good, I love, first of all, thank you for sharing that. It's such a remarkable story, and there's so much we could talk about with each of those things. But I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you could talk about, because it seems like so much of that would have been awakening. What's your, what was your awakening experience at 21 that was different than when you were a child and might be different than now? Because I know you said your training is still going on. Was there like a turning point or something that happened there?
Oh, yes, definitely. I was in India, in Goa, which was the culmination of a journey that took me across the Middle East, Europe, the UK, and India, studying with, in my 20s, physical masters, experts, teachers, healers, priests, and in every religious tradition and in every spiritual tradition, until I realized that I needed to go entirely within.
Mm.
And that moment when I left the cabin, I'm sorry, I left the rock where I had been laying down, fully prostrate under the full moon,
Yeah.
asking God to appear and reveal itself to me. Otherwise, I could not go on for another minute, another moment. I did not want to take another breath, another sip of water, another morsel of food. I did not want to continue to live until God revealed itself to me. And I heard that still small voice inside of my head that said, get up and go back to your cabin. And when I got up and went back to my cabin in Goa, India, on the beach, after I'd been living in ashrams in India with different avatars, and I was now on a solo self retreat, in that moment, the veil was pulled.
Wow.
And I was hit with a proverbial spiritual lightning bolt where I laughed and cried for about 8 hours, and realized that I was not my body. I was not the actor in the play. The movie of my life was merely a movie, and I became the one outside of the movie that was now able to see the totality. I was able to see all my past lives, future lives, all of this lifetime, like they were spinning through in a slot machine, one of those gambling slot machines that go
Yeah.
really fast. I saw image upon image upon image of all of
Yeah.
my lifetimes.
Wow.
And then I was taken under the ocean in through the primordial cosmic Om. And then I came out to the center, what I call the God self
Mm.
and the throne of God. And at that point, the indescribable happened, which is I merged into God consciousness for 8 weeks, where not a blade of grass could move in the universe without me knowing it and experiencing it. I became the totality of all manifest and unmanifest life. I became um, the knower, the known, and the process of knowing, as they say in Vedic science, Rishi, Devata, and Chandas.
Right.
So I was able to experience the access to the Akashic records to see all timelines. And in that state of consciousness, I really was no longer in my human self. I had transcended my human mind, my human ego. I was downloaded with the gift of instantaneous and spontaneous miracle healing. And I was set up as a trance, a partial trance medium or channel for interdimensional communication and for vast quantities of healing to humanity. And of course, my ego was checked out. I wasn't able to have an individuality. They didn't let me come back for 8 weeks to have an individuality. So I had to instruct the foot to take a step to walk. I had to instruct the hand to lift the fork, to put the food in the mouth, because I was the food, I was the fork, I was the hand. I was the grass, I was the foot, I was the shoe. There was no individual self. I was the cow and the daisy in the field. I was the cloud in the sky. I was the wind, the rain, the sun, the moon, the water, the ocean. There was no separation. And honestly, it took me 4 years after that to be able to not see everything as vibrating light. I could see the physical world, 3D world, matrix, and then as if you could put tracing paper right on top of something because you want to copy it.
Yeah.
I could see the blue etheric blueprint of creation, and then I could see everything as vibrating golden light, and I could hear God's voice speaking through everything.
Oh my
For
goodness.
4 years, I was in that state where I was transcendent of human, and that's when the miracle healings began.
I can only imagine. Thank you for sharing that because, that word awakening and ascension is thrown around a lot these days. And I don't think I've ever heard such a detailed description that's relatable. Like when you're saying it, I'm like, oh wow, I can imagine what that might be like. Whereas sometimes I read, these old books of people talking about their awakening experience and it feels really abstract and like, what does that mean? But wow,
Yeah.
what a journey you just took us through, and how amazing to go on that with you. And so now it's just amazing because most of the time when people have those kinds of experiences, that's it, they're done. They're like, that's it. But you're still here on the planet and you're here as a channel, and you really do channel, like you call it, divine light transmission. So I know not everybody is ready to receive the level of light that you were probably in, but they can still receive the light, because I know I had an experience of that with you, of being on the phone, and you were doing your light transmission. Tell us about these light transmissions. What is that light, and how have you seen it benefit people, and how would you want people, like if anybody's listening and they wanted to experience that, how would they do that, and what would that be like for them? It's so exciting.
Well, thank you. So many questions, and I'll do my best to remember all of
Yes,
them
that's
because
okay.
you're speaking my language. So, first of all, when I had the 8 week experience in India that took the 4 years to integrate, when I came back to the West, I did read the Upanishads, I did read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, I did read the Bhagavad Gita, and I found my exact experiences in the Upanishads. And I found my exact experiences in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras.
Oh,
And I
wow.
found my exact experiences in Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography
Autobiography
of
of
a
a yogi.
yogi.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I was blown away that I was actually having biblical measure experiences in
Yeah.
this form, and that I didn't read the scriptures until after I'd had the experiences. So there was no imitation, no mimicking,
Right. Right.
which is interesting because you talk about these stories being in books, and I didn't even know that they were, but they are.
Yeah.
And so, what a joy for me. My path has always been about experiencing and giving people, not only myself having the experience, but giving others the experience directly so that they can know it for themselves. Because people can say, oh, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the light. What is the light? What are you talking about? But if you give them a direct experience, mind blown. Wow, what? It's real?
Yeah.
So that's what the light transmission is. It's where I'm downloading the higher frequencies of the divine power, the divine force, the divine grace, the divine presence, the power of healing. And also, not just the power of healing, but the light goes in and finds where it's blocked. It finds where a
Ah,
person is stuck. It finds where the light needs to go. It has its own divine innate intelligence to be able to pull out, like weeding the yard, all of the stuck blockages, and go in and fill and illuminate the areas that need healing, that need clarification, the blocks that need to be pulled out. It opens the heart, it blows the mind, it heals the physical body very quickly and rapidly, even more in children than animals, than humans. And it works outside of time and space. So you can transmit the light, but it can happen to someone on the other side of the planet. It can happen to someone who's passed over to the other side of the veil, because it's not operating in the third dimension. It's coming from a higher level or a higher plane, and it's downloading or downstepping its frequency into me, who is the transducer. So the energy is being transduced down, and then I'm replicating what can be transmitted both from above, that's coming down into both me and the client, as well as from what's coming through me as it comes through and out. It's a triangle. You see, it's coming from above the top of the triangle,
mm-hmm.
and it's coming from through me. And then individuals, wherever they are, experience the light as actual symptoms. They experience tingling in the hands, fingers, toes, face, feet. They experience a light or a heat on the third eye, on the head. They experience waves of energy moving through the whole body. And then very often the pain is gone. And most cases, things that need to be healed heal very rapidly or are on the process to healing, depending on where the person is at in terms of their receptivity to how fast they can work with the process. So it's a divine intervention. It's a karma transmuter. It's transmuting negative karma and blockages, all types of different karma, which we'll get into another time. And it's bringing about the effect of clearing the symptoms, but by getting the individual to really look at the causes of what has created their situation.
Right. So that sounds like a lot of what would happen if someone worked with you one on one. Is that right? A one on
Yes.
one kind of a session?
Yes, that would happen in a one-on-one session. It would also happen in a group teleconference or a group retreat or a group intensive. We do those on Zoom. And I always do individuals, not always, but for the most part, I do individual work on all my groups so that
Yes.
each person can experience a light transmission. But light transmission is just one part of the work I do.
Yeah, I know. Your work is so multifaceted that we would need to be talking for weeks and weeks to go over all of it. But I do want to share with the listeners, I want to let them know that what my experience was. And I did a light transmission, I think it was about a year ago or so. And it was my first time doing that. And I was open, I didn't know what to expect. But you did a general kind of a light thing for everybody. And then I think you went through each person. And so I was meditating and I'm just like, well, I'm just going to meditate here. I had my little headphones in. And all of a sudden, about 10 minutes into when you started doing the individuals, I felt this wave of energy and I felt like I was going to push me over. It was so strong. And I was like, and I started vibrating. Exactly what you were saying. I was like, oh, this vibration started happening. And it lasted for a few minutes. And then I could feel you went on to the next person. So I'm just sharing that with people to let them know, if you want to go to Mirabai Devi's website, if you want to find out about her trainings, her divine light transmissions, if you have a chance to do it, do it. Give yourself the opportunity to experience it. Because like she said, until you experience it, it's kind of like a mental idea. Once you experience it, then you're like, whoa, this is real. This is what the great sages have been talking about. The great saints have been talking about this whole time. And it's just beautiful, Mirabai. It's just a beautiful experience.
Thank you, Francis. I was just going to say that it's like the transducer is bringing it from the highest levels of what the saints and sages talk about into the 3D world, where it's then being transmitted into a tangible
Yeah,
energy that can be received. I mean, you could bottle it. I could put
yeah,
it into a bottle and sell it.
yeah,
It's literally something that becomes a substance that an individual can experience. And it's not just to experience it, it heals the body, it blows the mind, it opens the heart, it clears up broken relationships, and it also heals broken bones, torn ligaments. It's actually got very many physical components to it that are not just, oh, wow, I experienced the divine today. It's
yeah,
actually, oh, wow, I had a healing in my body today, or I had my heart open, or my consciousness
yeah.
state was altered to a higher state, or my answers that I've been seeking for a long time to my problems came to me.
And I will also say, because I've talked to, in the process of setting up our interview, I talked to some people on your staff, and they've also told me spiritual awakening. Like, in addition to all
Yes.
these beautiful things like physical healing, which is
Yes.
all great, the ultimate healing is really spiritual awakening. And for those who
Yeah.
are ready, you can actually help facilitate that for them.
I always say the physical healing is just a calling card that
Yeah.
takes one to the spiritual awakening, because the
Yeah.
spiritual awakening is the goal of my work.
Yeah.
It's to bring people back home to God, back to the light,
Yeah. Oh, I
to
love that.
unite them. Mm,
So,
mm.
speaking of light beings, I know that there's so much that we could talk about, but I think, our listeners really love the angels. They really love everything connected with the angels. And I think that you have a series on the angelic realm that you've been doing. I know you have a couple of different things. So, I'm going to really encourage people to go to Mirabai's website, mirabaidevi.org, O-R-G. I'll put that in the show notes as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end as well. But you have different series that you do, different trainings that you do. And I'm just curious your experience of the angelic realm, because it's not a theory for you. It's like you've seen it, you've been there. What can you tell us, or what would you like people to know about the angelic realm that might be helpful for them?
Oh, there's so many things, but if I were to pick just a few highlights, is angels are not outside of our reach. They're
Yeah,
not somewhere far off in some distant heaven. They're actually all around us, and they're all around nature. They're around plants and trees and animals. They're around human beings. They're all around us, and they're actually the messengers to God. And they take our prayers and they bring us answers. They help us to manifest and create on a day by day, moment by moment basis. And we have to call upon them to ask for their help, because of free will, they can't intervene.
right.
So if we actually knew that we were never, never alone, and that they are right there around us, just waiting for us to ask and help,
Yeah,
why would we ever want to struggle or suffer? Why
yeah,
would we ever want to do it on our own if we knew that divine angelic intervention and help and guidance was available to us every moment of the day? And then the other thing I would just say is that the ones that are closest to us are the angels and the archangels. There are hierarchies of angelic beings that are closer to God and that don't work as much with humans. They have higher priorities and
right,
jobs.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say, because I know you're a world traveler, I know that you do your work all around, literally all around the world. And one of the things that I've always seen is that angels are universal. They're not like belonging to one religion, and they might have different descriptions and different traditions, but
Yeah.
they're everywhere present. They're for everybody. They don't belong to any one group, I guess I could say.
Yeah, they're non-denominational.
Yeah.
They don't belong to any religious tradition, any one group, any one part of humanity. All of our religions and all of our storylines that come from each religion are man-made stories that humans pass down to other humans and tell the story of their history, right?
Mhm.
Around their spiritual traditions and mythological stories. Whereas the angels would appear, just like you said, Francis, that appear in one form to a Christian, in a different form to a Jew, in a different form to a Hindu, in a different form to
Yeah.
a Buddhist. They can take on whatever form your mind relates to, and they are both male and female. They can take on both male or female form, and they also are non-physical, so they can appear as balls of light, sparklers of light, stars of light, or they can appear as very large, tall human beings with big white or golden wings of birds' wings, just like we
Yeah.
think about them in storybooks. So they will take on whatever form you can best or most relate with.
Yeah. I just, so thank you for saying that. I just love that because I think I always tell people when they're starting on the spiritual path, start with the angels because they're right there. You know, you
Yeah.
can always connect with them. They are right there.
And they do so much more than what people know. I just want to say it's a lot of the work that I do, like psychic surgery
Hmm.
or soul retrieval or healing the etheric field or working with etheric gels to heal the etheric field, which is the blueprint body that causes all illness. Those angelic beings are capable of all that type of work also. They're very knowledgeable and skilled in areas that we are not necessarily trained in or
Hmm.
even know about.
Hmm. All right. Well, I'm wondering if there is any, I have a feeling I'm getting kind of an intuition. Like, is there anything that you want to share with people that maybe we haven't talked about before? Maybe, I don't know if you have an upcoming training or if there's an intuitive sense of something that you feel like maybe people could really benefit from hearing right now.
Yeah, I would say that there's two things. The one is that I am launching my membership portal
Oh,
with a
beautiful.
topic. Yeah, thank you. With a topic called inner listening, listening to the still small voice of God within, listening to your inner voice.
Love that.
And that is based on that program will be coming up by the time this is released, and there'll be a launch, and there'll be the inner listening retreat available for the listeners to participate or be involved in or purchase. And also, I'm starting a Finding Your Life Purpose is my brand new 4-class series that's coming up next. And it's coming out of so many people going through a reset during the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
and really coming out of this time during the pandemic where they either were isolated or separated or alienated from their family and loved ones or from work or even lost their jobs. And we're
Yeah.
like, what's next? Who am I? What is my purpose? What am I really here for? What's the point? And there's so much going on in the world, so much chaos, so much confusion. What's the truth? What do you listen to? What do you follow? What is my purpose in all of this? What's my role? Perfect timing for this 4-class series. I'm going to hone in on all of that and help us recreate ourselves to find our soul's purpose
I
and
love
why
that.
we are really here and what it is that we've really come here to be and to do.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So, because I think I see it too. People are really disoriented. You know, that's the word I
Yes.
would say. People are really disoriented, and what used
Yes.
to apply doesn't apply, and how
Yes.
do you respond to that? So that's beautiful.
Yes.
So
Thank
there's the
you.
inner listening retreat and the Finding Your Purpose program. And so when
Yes.
people want to know more about your work, the best thing to do is to go to your main website, right? Mirabaidevi.org.
Yes, mirabaidevi.org, www.mirabaidevi.org, or to call or text the office, which is 760-216-1029. That's 760-216-1029. Call or text. Of course, the website has the email and the phone number also.
Okay. So that would be true if they wanted to set up an appointment with you as well, right? They could call or text the office and your
And
assistant
and
would help them.
also, yes, my assistant would help them, but also if they sign up on the mailing list on the website. So I could say if you, to the audience, as the audience, sign up on the mailing list on the website, then you will receive an actual email that tells you every week what programs are running. And there are so many different wonderful programs and classes that I've run throughout the pandemic. There's so many exciting things, as well as teleconferences that you can join to receive light transmissions, programs where you can receive teachings and meditations and mantras and affirmations and transmissions, and also techniques, a lot of different spiritual techniques and practices. So everything comes on the mailing list newsletter. So it's really important to be signed up on that.
Okay, so I'm going to put this all in the show notes, but you go to mirabaidevi.org, get on the newsletter, sign up for the email list, because that's where you'll know what the latest training is, when the divine light transmissions are happening, and all the latest developments. Because I think
Yeah.
once the pandemic energy is over and maybe you'll start traveling again, people might want to be able to come and see you in person, which would be such a gift as well.
Yes. Oh,
But it's such a
yes.
gift to be able to see you now this way, because normally you'd be somewhere around the world, and who knows if we'd have the ability to connect with you. So again, I'll put that in the
Exactly.
show notes, Mirabai Devi. And Mirabai is spelled MiraBaiDevi.org, mirabaidevi.org. Oh, Mirabai, I could just spend the rest of the year with you talking about these amazing, miraculous things. I so appreciate you. Thank you for being
Thank
our
you.
beautiful guest here today. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Francis, so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love, this is my favorite thing to talk about, and we speak the same language, so we could
Oh,
sing
yeah.
in a choir together.
Absolutely. I think on some astral realm, maybe we are. Absolutely. So I just want
Yes.
to say to the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I really encourage you to take advantage of these beautiful offerings that Mirabai has. And remember, my friend, always that the key to magnifying your miracles is to remember that your miracle is already here. God bless you. Bye-bye.